What's up, everybody? I'm whooping long COVID. So long COVID has essentially ruined my life and has almost killed me on multiple occasions. And so I have gotten very serious about trying to beat this thing. And to that end, I thought that I would document my experiences and share them with everybody else that's going through similar things that I am. My experience in trying to do research on this is nobody really knows what the hell's going on. Nobody has good answers, and no one's got really good direction about what to do. There's a lot of maybes. And so I decided I'm going to make myself the ultimate guinea pig. I'm going to try everything that there's some scientific background to try and collect data and see what happens. And just to give you some kind of background on this, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a good corporate citizen, a good, citizen of the US. I went out, I got vaccinated, I got boosted, and then I proceeded to get COVID 8 times. Just one of the lucky ones, just kept getting sick. And with each time, my post-COVID symptoms would increase. And just to give you a sense of some of the things that I am dealing with, probably the biggest thing for me has been GI issues. Long COVID would attack my GI system. It would rapidly turn into a secondary infection. These secondary infections were essentially fatal if not treated. They would put me into the hospital from anywhere from 7 to 10 days. And then typically might result in a small surgery. And then typically 2 to 3 weeks on an IV at home. This happened 7 times in a 24-month period, with me getting a lot closer to death than I would have liked to, and ultimately concluded with them removing my entire sigmoid colon, which has its own host of issues. So that's probably one of the bigger things I'm dealing with. I spend most of my days dealing with crippling fatigue and agonizing pain. I get crazy brain fog. It's hard to think, it's hard to concentrate. I get vertigo, I get dizzy, I faint. I get tinnitus, where I'm just hearing ringing in my ear constantly. I get gnarly headaches. Never had a migraine in my life, but now I get gnarly headaches all the time. I get this thing, I don't have better words for it than what I call it, which is skeleton on fire. And essentially, every bone in my body, deep in the bones, feels like it's on fire. And it's just crippling waves of pain rushing into my brain. I have trouble swallowing, particularly first thing in the morning when I wake up. It's very difficult for me to swallow. My extremities get paralyzed. My right leg gets paralyzed and I drag it like Igor and young Frankenstein behind me. Typically that goes away in anywhere from, let's say, 2 to 4 days. My left arm was paralyzed, and it was paralyzed for 4 months. I couldn't move it from the elbow down. That has since come back, but I now have massive nerve pain in that arm. It feels like someone's stabbing me with an ice pick in my forearm. That's good times. I get insomnia, and I have incredible fatigue, particularly if I try to do anything athletic. Or anything that requires physical exertion. I'll give you an example. I fell asleep at a Metallica concert. Do you know how hard it is to fall asleep while Metallica is playing live in the same room that you are in? It's fucking hard. But there I am, I'm jumping up and down, I'm excited, and all of a sudden, I just fall asleep. I fell asleep at a Jane's Addiction concert. I was standing at the barricade, once again, jumping up and down, excited, ran my ATP stores down to nothing, fell asleep, folded over the barricade for about 4 or 5 songs. The bouncers thought I was on heroin and tried to throw me out. I had to wake up and tell them, look, I'm not on heroin. I have long COVID, which, by the way, is the most embarrassing conversation to possibly have. Another time I was helping my son sledgehammer out some concrete in front of his house. And after about 5 minutes, I looked at him and said, oh no, ran inside and passed out face first into the couch for 4 hours. So what happens is when I do any type of physical thing, I will fall asleep. And so now, having gone through this enough times, I can sort of recognize the symptoms and the onset of it, and I'll go and I'll sit down. So if I have to do anything physical, I'll do it for like 2 minutes, and then I'll sit. The other day I was putting together an outdoor fire pit, for like a propane fire pit for our balcony or our deck. And so I would sit there and I would screw screws for about 2 minutes, and then I would go sit down and rest for 2 minutes. And then I would screw screws for 2 minutes, and I would rest for 5 minutes. And so these are sort of techniques that I've learned. I am also chronically dehydrated. Part of this comes from the colon being removed. A lot of the way that you absorb water is through your colon. And now that I'm missing my sigmoid colon, my absorption levels have gone way down, but also my ability to take in volume has gone way down as well. And so I can't take in as much water, and I absorb half of what I used to be able to absorb. So I'm chronically dehydrated, which has its own host of issues. I have heart palpitations pretty much constantly. I have difficulty focusing to the point where sometimes I can't even watch television. Like, watching South Park is too difficult for my brain to comprehend. And so I just sit there and I stare at the wall. I would say probably for the last 2 months, I've been more or less bedridden 60 to 70% of the time. And because you're so tired, like sometimes I'll have to go to the bathroom, and it is less painful to lay in bed for 4 hours having to go to the bathroom, because the very thought of walking 10 feet to the bathroom and going to the bathroom seems like an impossibility. I have skin problems. All the skin peeled off my hands. I have, you can probably see some of the stuff on my face. I get these big red boils all over my face. I'm unable to regulate temperature. So I'm either sweating like crazy or shivering freezing cold. And whichever one it is, it's going to change in 15 minutes. So I constantly have jackets and blankets in every room of my house, so that when that happens, I can bundle up and then unbundle. And so that's a pain in the ass. I get aphasia. Aphasia is when your words don't make any sense. You can't form words. So in my head, I'm talking, but what's coming out of my mouth is it sounds like that. And then people are like, are you on heroin or are you drunk? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, in my head, I'm saying things and it makes sense, but what people hear is just these gobbledygook. My hair's falling out in clumps. And so, this whole thing is basically ruining my life. And so to that end, I've gotten quite serious about this. I've done a lot of research. And when I say research, I don't mean that I'm sitting there reading subreddits and, Substacks and shit on the internet. No, I'm like going and finding peer-reviewed medical journals. I'm reading them. In some cases, I'm even recalculating the data calculations that they did. I'm talking to doctors. And through this process, I've came to understand a few things. Number one, nobody knows what the fuck is going on with any certainty. Number two, the things that tend to work don't work for everybody, because the way that long COVID manifests itself is different person to person. And so while a treatment protocol or a medicine might work for one person, it may not work for the next person. I also think that there's a whole lot of effort being spent on, are the symptoms the result of the vaccine, or they're the result of long COVID? If you look at the National Institute of Health, like approved symptoms for long COVID, and then you look at the Yale study on symptoms from the vaccine, they're the same. So it doesn't really matter. And for me, I don't give a shit. I don't care. If my house is on fire, I'm going to try to put the fire out rather than go and try to figure out why the fire started. And so I am not trying to make any political statement here. All I want to do is get my life back to as close a semblance of normality as is humanly possible. And so to that end, as I mentioned, I'm trying a lot of different modalities. I'm trying medicines, I'm trying supplements, I'm trying treatment protocols that kind of run the gamut. And what I plan to do with this is kind of tell you what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and then tell you what I've personally experienced based on that, and in the hopes that this is useful to other people. I'm not trying to be an influencer. I'm not getting paid or kickbacks from any companies to endorse their products. I'm not trying to become an influencer. I'm just trying to have my life not be shit anymore. And if during that process, I can help some other people who are in the same boat that I am in, all the more power. And it sucks. And I'm sure that many of you who are dealing with these kinds of things, you're met with incredulity and disbelief, where people are like, wait, you're sick, but you have long COVID? And either they don't believe you, they don't believe that it's a thing, or they believe that you're melodramatic and you're exaggerating things. And I can just tell, people look at me and they're like, whatever. And then I pull up my shirt and I show them a 15-inch scar where they disemboweled me because of long COVID. And I'm like, am I making this up? No, this is legit. This is real. We don't understand it. And so with that, welcome to Whoopin' Long COVID. Come on the journey with me. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we all get better together. Cheers, guys.